Hey there, Photo Universe. So it's been a while. Actually, it's been more than 6 months, I think. Well, springtime I have allergies, and the summertime it's always too hot for me, so it's all good. But you know, the fall is usually my favorite time of year, and that's when I start getting photographically interested again. I've been out taking pictures here and there, did a couple of trips, went down to Texas. It's been an interesting year. It's starting to stabilize though a little bit, which is good. So what's today's topic? Well, it's been a while, and what prompted this video is that there was this sort of build-up to a September 5th announcement, and there was a guy on Digital Photo Review, dpreview.com, and Asahi Man, he's up in Canada, and he was kind of alluding to the fact that something big was coming September 5th, and then a few people on the forums, maybe a lot, I don't know, it seemed like there were a few though, were up at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, to watch this big announcement. And it turned out to be this 360-degree theta camera, which is like, yeah, whatever. It takes a 360-degree photo with you in the picture, and it puts it to your iPhone, and it's very low resolution, and yeah, whatever. I mean, it's a Ricoh camera. It's not even a camera. It's just it's a toy kind of. And interesting side note on that, the guy that they gave the thing to do a demo with actually was standing there with a Canon camera in the picture to demonstrate the Ricoh theta. So yeah, Ricoh, whatever. So, which, you know, that leads me to the thing of, here's the deal with Pentax, okay? If a lot of people came to Pentax in the digital world, if you don't have a long history with Pentax, this is classic. It's really interesting how Pentax has changed hands. It was sold to Hoya, and then it was sold to Ricoh. And so the company, I mean, Pentax itself kind of really did go out of business. I mean, they were sold to Hoya, and then they were sold to Ricoh. I mean, they're still, you know, and God knows what Ricoh's doing, because they rebranded and they're changing. Like now Pentax is just a brand. It's no longer, you know, Hoya at least did its own, you know, let Pentax be kind of autonomous and stayed Pentax. Whereas now Ricoh's kind of like, you know, showing some domination. Now it's just a brand. So there's some ego there on Ricoh's part, whoever's running that show. Because they're showing, you know, all the websites changed over. Anyway, so this is really classic Pentax. Okay, if you're new to Pentax and this is your first time around with this, or they've only been doing this for a few years, you're not used to this. But this is classic Pentax. When you have very little to hope for, little things become a big deal. Okay, and that's what happened here. When Ricoh took over the K5-2S, the K5-2 and the K5-2S, that was just a stopgap measure. The HD coating with the red rings. I mean, there's nothing new to see here. Okay, these cameras are just like rehashes of stuff that's already been in production. There's nothing's changed. The K50, K500, those are new. But there's so nothing's been announced for a long time, and so people are like, you know, yeah, something should be coming soon. Do we really need anything? Well, that's debatable. But the point is, people who are interested in a new Pentax. They're wanting to see something new, and they're expecting something new soon. And of course, there's always the full frame and the. Okay, so this goes back for years. Okay, back in film days with 35mm film Pentaxes, there was going to be this. Pentax has always been trying for the Hail Mary pass, and anyone who follows American football knows what I'm talking about. But basically, what that is, it's the last quarter, you know, the last down. You're down by a few points, and you got most of the football field in front of you, and the quarterback's just about to get sacked, and what does he do? He just launches the ball 80, 70, 80 yards to some guy out there. And why they call it a Hail Mary pass is it'd be a miracle if this connected and got a touchdown. So Pentax has been looking for that since the PZ1P. Okay, and that was back when they were a real player. So, I mean, well, no, they weren't a real. They haven't been a real player since the LX, and then it was still a niche thing, right? Pentax hasn't been a real player since the '60s with the M42 mount. That was the last time Pentax was a player in terms of Canon and Nikon. But Pentax was going to come back with this, PZ1. I remember there was something big's coming and a big build up to it, and it turned out the big build up was power zoom. And we can see how well that caught on because now Canon and Nikon both have power zooms. Now, in fairness to Pentax, they were the first ones to put a flash in a DSLR, in an SLR. In the PZ, I forget which one it was, the SF1, I think, had a flash. And everybody was kind of like, wow, that's a gimmick, and turned out to be a really handy thing. So Pentax has a history of some innovations that did stick, and other people copied, Canon, Nikon, etc. So the PZ1P came out, and after shooting that camera for like 6 months, I wanted to change some basic thing, and I needed a manual. It was just so complicated, and so you just had no idea what buttons to push. It was just crazy, and that was a film camera. And then they swung completely the other way with the MZX, I think that was it. It was a retro camera with dials and shutter speeds and things. It was plasticky, but it was cool. So what happens is, and why hasn't, I mean, if another company did this and made really quirky cameras that were kind of so what, they'd go away, But why is Pentax held on? Because every once in a while Pentax comes out with something like the K5, K5-2, K5-2S, just, yeah, and the lenses, right? So, this announcement that turned into nothing is another disappointment. And, you say to yourself, all right, why am I screwing around with this? I really want a Fuji X Pro 1, maybe I'll try that. And then you get the Fuji X Pro 1 lenses, and they're all electronic focus and all this, and it's like, if the Fuji X Pro 1 had those DA lenses, the primes, if they were more, old, just that feel, right? Now, the Fuji guys might disagree with me, but that's one of the things that's keeping me away from the X Pro 1 and the Fuji stuff. The lenses just felt a little too micro four thirds plasticky to me, instead of like DSLR or SLR old school lenses. All right, that's just me. It's what I like. Okay, now I'm sure the X Pro 1 is fantastic, and people are taking great shots with it, and they love it. And but this is what I like. Okay, I'm telling you why I'm not ready to shell out my money for that. Not when I've got a K5-2, right, or K5-2S and a K5 with those great prime lenses that are just the way I like them. Okay, so I mean, now if Pentax came out with a mirrorless camera rangefinder like the X Pro 1 that took came out lenses, right? How many people just went, oh yeah, right? I mean, talk about, Pentax is a story of missed opportunity. There's a tremendous user base out there that's dying for, everybody in their mind kind of knows without, they subconsciously, they kind of know without really, some of them have thought about it, some of them subconsciously know that in the back of their minds there's this like camera that's a Pentax that's not a Nikon or Canon, that's just, I mean, the K5 is so close. Okay, so that's where we're at with all that. So Pentax is a brand of disappointment. When digital first came out, I had a bunch of Pentax film cameras and lenses, and I got the ISTD, and that was a great camera. But you know what? At the time, the Canon 20D came out, and it was like, well, so I went to 20Ds because ISTD the metering and it was really brittle. There was the highlights were blown out, kind of like the original Nikon D100. It had that highlight problem. The Canon 20D fixed that highlight problem with digital. And so so I switched over to Canon, right? And I got rid of a bunch of Pentax lenses and a bunch of Pentax film gear. And well, at the time I was doing a lot of weddings. I did like 40, 50 weddings a year down in Texas. And you know, and then here we are 5 years later, and they come out with the K5. You know, and the K5, man, if the, you know, I prefer the K5 over the Canon 5D Mark III. So, you know, it's like every 5 years Pentax hits their stride. The only thing I'm concerned about is Ricoh. Ricoh is a company that tends to have these crazy, quirky cameras that, you know, it depends on who's really in charge, Ricoh or Pentax, you know. And the guys at Pentax who really made the, who really kind of always made that cool stuff, that's why we get by Pentax. I don't know if they're still around anymore. I mean, I hope they are. But that's what everybody's waiting for. That's why this new announcement, everybody's so on pins and needles for it, because it's kind of like, okay, what direction is Ricoh taking this company in? I mean, there's a lot more riding on this than just a new camera, right? If they come out with a K3 and it's an APS-C and it's like the K5 and it addresses the video and it makes the flash work better and the metering's better and the, you know, all of it turns it into a D7200 or whatever the Nikon one is. You know, I mean, at that level of flash, or even close to that level of flash sophistication and whatever, okay, you know, Ricoh's doing the right thing. But if they come out with this K3 and there's some bizarre craziness going on with some goofy gizmo electronic nonsense that we don't want, or there's rumors of a whole new lens mount, an A lens mount that's all electronic. What? Good luck with that. You know, it's not what, that's not what I'm saying is, yeah, that might be a wonderful thing, but it's not what the Pentax user base, you know, these are people with old manual focus A series lenses that are all that just love to use them. Pentax is the Pentax user base, in my opinion, is a very traditional user base that want, like the MZS, I think, no, the MZS was a great camera, but the MZX, with that, it was a electronic film camera with a analog interface. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, a little plasticky. If they had made that on a pro level like the Nikon FM2, Pentax would have taken over. Okay, so that's just a few thoughts on what's happening here. A quick note on the HD. The new HD with the red ring in it, yeah, so what? I mean, it's going to be better, maybe. They're going to be more expensive. I think Pentax pricing has gotten so bizarre anyway that I'm not buying a thing. I've got everything I need for right now, and what I'm waiting for is when the day after Thanksgiving again. I'm looking for 50% off, like they did last year, and then I'm going to drop about $2,000. So I might have a new, you know, if the K3 comes out and it's something I want to buy, I'm going to get that. I might pick up the 16 to 50. I might pick up the 50 to 135 just to have them if they're 50% off. If I can get a 16 to 52.8 for, like, I think last year was like $700 when you bought it with a K5 2S body, and the body was like $900. I mean, it was like $1,700 for the K5 2S body and the 16 to 50 2.8 SDM. That was a good deal. And I remember the 50 to 135 was down to like $799 or something. And if those prices are there, you know, if that's what's happening, then I'm going to do that. And I may pick up a 21 to either the new HD or the old one, you know, but Black Friday. And if they don't have those great sales, if they're not back to pre-map pricing, then there's nothing I need, because I'm running all Tamron and the Sigma lenses. Hey, bad news on the Sigma 8 to 16. Evidently they discontinued it in Pentax mount. What's up with that? That was an awesome lens. I'm nervous to use the one I got because I'd have to replace it used if I could find one. That was a great lens. So Sigma kind of, I don't know why they quit. I mean, they're making it in other mounts. They didn't discontinue the lens. Why discontinue it in Pentax mount? I mean, that was a cool lens. Anyway. So there we are. That's it with Photo Universe, and hopefully, you know, as the fall continues, we'll make more videos and get our opinion out there on what's going on with some of this stuff. So appreciate it. Have a good one. Thanks.